Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In this two-part video, I will be covering every one of Melbourne's tram routes, starting with routes 1 to 57. I will rank them based on a number of criteria, these being reliability, do trams get stuck in traffic, are delays frequent, and how fast is the journey time, comfortability, are the trams small and cramped or large and spacious, and are the seats comfortable, usage, how popular is the route, and how many activity centers does it pass through, and finally, general uniqueness. Are there any interesting or strange quirks about the route that help elevate it? I will also not be including Route 35, the city circle, as it has poor frequencies, is mainly aimed at tourists, and only operates in a clockwise direction. First up, we have Route 1. Route 1 runs from East Coburg in the north to South Melbourne Beach in the south, running via Swanston Street in the city. The vast majority of trams running on this route are B classes, which despite being high floor, are spacious enough for a medium capacity route like this, and I was usually able to find a seat. In the north, the tram travels along Lygon Street and has a dedicated right-of-way for much of this section. This also includes a long section of shared track with Route 6. In the south, Route 1 leaves St Kilda Road to better serve the Arts Precinct, providing better connections to galleries in the South Bank area other than other tram routes that only visit the NGV. It then follows a very winding route, travelled through many different side streets in the South Melbourne area, connecting with routes 12 and 58, as well as Albert Park's main shopping strip at Bridport Street, passing through 4 different roundabouts. This does make it a bit slow, however this area is very pleasant, so I won't fault it too much. Overall, I'd give the one a 7 out of 10. As while it's average in a lot of areas, the southern section generally makes up for it. Next is Route 3. Route 3 starts at Melbourne University and runs to East Malvern. Melbourne Uni is Melbourne's largest tram terminus, with a total of 6 routes ending their journeys here, before running down Swanston Street and St Kilda Road, all the way past St Kilda, before turning east down Balaclava Road, sharing track with Route 16. The 3 runs through the central area of Balaclava and passes Balaclava Junction, Melbourne's only Grand Union, with tracks diverging in all 4 directions. Heading past here, the tram performs an agonizingly slow zigzag around Caulfield, travelling down no less than 7 different streets across a distance of less than a kilometre. This also includes the tightest curve on the tram network, which I've mentioned quite a few times. Similar to Route 1, the 3 uses B-class trams, but this time quite a few Z-classes as well, which are much smaller and don't announce upcoming stops. While spending a large amount of its route travelling down St Kilda Road does help speed up journey times, the rest of the route is entirely mixed traffic, and the area around Caulfield doesn't really help its case. There's also a very blatant missing connection to East Malvern Station. Overall, I'd give the 3 a 4 out of 10. Next is Route 5. Similarly to the 3, the 5 also begins at Melbourne University, running down St Kilda Road before turning left onto Dandenong Road, sharing track with Route 64 this time. Dandenong Road is a very nice tree-lined road where trams have their own dedicated right-of-way. Route 5 then turns left again, leaving Dandenong Road and Route 64 to travel down Wattletree Road for another 3 kilometres before terminating at Malvern, northwest of where the 3 ends. The 5 is often considered the most boring tram route, as the only interesting feature of the route is Dandenong Road, which the 64 travels on for longer anyway. It also uses predominantly D1 class trams, with the occasional Z class. D1 classes are medium-sized trams that are low floor but also have rather uncomfortable seats. Despite this, it is still very fast, traveling along separated lanes for 80% of the route, so it still gets a 6 out of 10 from me. Next we have Route 6. This route runs from Moreland Station in the north to Glen Iris in the south, travelling yet again down Swanston Street. The 6 takes the same path as the 1 for much of the northern section, but turns left to travel down Moreland Road to connect with the 19 as well as Upfield Line trains. In the south, the 6 uses St Kilda Road up until High Street, before turning down it and following it for the remainder of the route. The 6 uses the largest variety of different tram types along its route, with Z-Class, B-Class, D1, and D2 class trams. D2s are some of Melbourne's largest trams, and the largest ones that operate on Swanston Street, but they still retain the uncomfortable seats of the D1s. They're generally the most common out of all types used on this route. High Street in Paran is very slow, and it's not particularly interesting, so I'm going to give the 6 a 4 out of 10. Route 11 runs from West Preston in the north and ends at the city at Victoria Harbour, running via Collins Street. The 11 runs along the famous Brunswick Street, the vibrant shopping and dining street in the suburb of Fitzroy. This section tends to be quite slow, but it's made up for by the incredibly fast section along St George's Road, where tracks run on either side of the road's median. The tram heads directly past New Preston Depot, Melbourne's largest tram depot, before travelling down Miller Street and Gilbert Road to end at West Preston. At the other end of the line, the 11 travels through a rather quiet part of the Docklands area, which, despite being part of the free tram zone, these stops don't really see much usage. The 11 is the first route to use only E-Class trams, Melbourne's newest and most modern tram type, with capacity for over 200 people. The 11 is a very interesting route that definitely deserves an 8 out of 10 score. Next up is the 12. Route 12 starts from the Victoria Gardens shopping centre, IKEA, and follows Victoria Street and Victoria Parade into the city, and runs via Collins Street, sharing tracks with the 109. I will go more into detail on this section when it's time to discuss that route. The 12 then turns past the casino and down Clarendon Street, through South Melbourne before winding its way past Albert Park and the Melbourne Sports and Aquatic Centre, before turning down a small inner city side street that takes it to the end of its route on the fringes of St Kilda. The 12 passes through 5 different roundabouts along this section alone, the most out of any route. The 12 exclusively uses A-Class trams, the smallest out of every tram class in the whole city. This is generally okay for the southern section, which is mostly through residential streets and is supplemented by the higher capacity 96, but the section along Victoria Street and through the city can get incredibly busy. The southern section is very nice, however, so I'll still give this a 6 out of 10. If you want to learn more about Route 12, you can check Techie Transport's video on the topic, which I'll have linked in the description below. The next line to discuss is the 16. The 16 begins at Melbourne University and forms a big U shape heading down St Kilda Road to service St Kilda, down Balaclava Road and past Balaclava Junction, but then also running down Glenferrie Road to Kew, providing a radial connection to many other routes in the southeast area. The 16 and the 96 both provide the most coverage to the St Kilda area, one of Melbourne's tourist hotspots, with the route even saying Kew via St Kilda rather than just Kew in almost all cases. Down Glenferrie Road, it passes one of Melbourne's 2 remaining tram squares, where tram tracks and train tracks cross. Glenferrie Road also passes through the Hawthorn area, with a connection to Swinburne University and Glenferrie Station. This strange shape means the 16 is actually the 4th longest tram route, despite not really going that far from the city centre. There's also this short section along Dandenong Road, where the 16 makes 2 sharp 45-degree turns in less than 200 metres. The 16 uses Z-Class and D1 class trams along the route. Zs can get quite packed through St Kilda, but apart from that, it's a pretty low ridership route, so it's usually fine. Despite this, however, it is incredibly slow, and the vast majority of it is mixed traffic, so I can't really give it much higher than a 4 out of 10. Next up is Route 19. The 19 runs from North Coburg to Flinders Street in the city, using Elizabeth Street. The 19 runs past Queen Victoria Market and the Haymarket roundabout, before continuing straight down Royal Parade and Sydney Road. The Royal Parade section sees the tram heading right between Royal Park and Princes Park on a dedicated right-of-way in the street's median. This is in stark contrast to the section along Sydney Road, which might just be the slowest tram street in the entire city. Sydney Road is a very busy shopping and dining street, but it's also used as a through route to get to the northern suburbs, as well as having trams run along it for nearly 6 kilometres. Luckily, the Upfield line does provide an alternative to this if the traffic is particularly bad, which it usually is, although it only runs every 20 minutes. The 19 uses D2 class and B class trams along this route, which are usually sufficient for the demand. Despite this, it still gets a 2 out of 10 from me. The next route is Melbourne's shortest tram route. The 30 runs for just 3 kilometres, from St Vincent's Plaza along La Trobe Street in Melbourne CBD to the Central Pier Ferry Terminal in Docklands. The only real purpose of this route is to provide a proper tram service along La Trobe Street. I find this odd, as La Trobe is a pretty busy street, so it would make sense to reroute, say, the 12 to run along here and provide extra capacity, but I digress. Strangely, the 30 actually operates almost entirely with E-Class trams, the largest on the network. While the 30 can be somewhat busy at times, I really think it would be more beneficial to use these on other routes which really need the extra capacity. Instead of having the 30 run an incredibly short shuttle along here, I think it would be more beneficial to replace it with a rerouted 11 or 12 to more easily spread tram coverage across the city. The 30 is really the only route here I would actually abolish, so it gets a 1 out of 10. The next route to discuss is the 48. The 48 runs from North Balwyn in the west to Docklands in the east, along Collins Street in the city. The 48 runs along Bridge Road, sharing tracks with the 75, before turning up High Street to serve Kew with the 109. The 48 then continues down High Street until it reaches its incredibly quiet terminus at North Balwyn. Seriously, this is the strangest place to end the route, and it's no wonder there are so many calls to extend it to Doncaster. It's probably the most likely tram extension at this point, although don't expect it anytime soon. Part of the section along Bridge Road through Richmond is separated from traffic, but most of the rest of the route isn't. The 48 uses C-Class and A-Class trams. C-Classes are similar to Ds, and are from the same time period, but generally have a better reputation, although they are more prone to derailment, so enjoy thinking about that next time you ride one. The A-Classes the route uses get really busy in the section up to Kew, but it's not as bad as some other routes I know. The 48 gets a 5 out of 10. Our final route for today is the 57. The 57 runs from Maribyrnong in the north to Flinders Street in the south, using Elizabeth Street in the city. The 57 serves the North Melbourne area, winding its way down many small streets through 90-degree turns, including Errol Street, and past the filming location of Australian TV show Fisk. The line then turns left onto Flemington Road, connecting with the 59 before turning past Newmarket, Melbourne Showgrounds, and Flemington Racecourse. The tram then turns again onto Maribyrnong Road, sharing track with the 82, before ending next to the Maribyrnong Defence Site. The 57 is a really interesting route with quite a lot of variety, but it suffers when it comes to comfortability and speed. The 57 uses exclusively Z-Class trams, the worst type on the whole network, and they are certainly not big enough to meet demand. The many twists and turns also means its speed suffers a lot, but I'll still give it a 6 out of 10. Here's a list of routes and the scores I gave them in this video. In the next part, I'll cover the remaining routes from 58 to 109, and seeing how they rank up. But for now, thanks for watching, and thank you to my members for supporting my channel. I'll see you in the next one.